joining me. I was recently doing a class with some lovely ladies, and I realized I'd never done a video with these, so I thought, hey, good choice for a video. I love Stampscapes. I hope you love them too. And I thought these would be fun to do. They're incredibly easy, and I love them because I like phone mounting. And I love Stampscapes. So we're going to do these. So I'm going to do this card first, then I'll go over this one as well. They're exactly the same card. There's nothing different about them except that the images are different and maybe a couple of the colors. And I'm recording in my store this morning, so I don't know if you can hear the little door opening bell ringer, but that's what you're hearing in the background. Okay, so this is all embossed. I don't use black embossing powder ever. I use black ink and clear embossing. And I don't use black embossing because those, no matter what you do, you get these little black flecks and you can't control them, and they kind of, you know, you think everything's good until you accidentally emboss a little piece of black fleck somewhere, and that drives me crazy. So I don't do that. But I use a black ink. I like using this one. I would not use pigment. And that was a question that came up in the class, and I don't do it because sometimes if your embossing powder didn't quite have good coverage over the stamped ink, when you come around and rub your color in it, you'll pick up some of the pigment and just smear it all over the paper. So it's a little hard to control. Distress ink is a mixed media product, so it's a little more water-based and a little more water reactive than some. So it's a good choice for picking up your clear embossing. That would not stop me from using any other black dye ink pad. I just happen to have a lot of these colors, so I'm using them. I don't use Memento, which I do in lots of other products, so I love Memento, but Memento doesn't lay down as much ink and it dries a lot faster, so that's why I don't do it. So I use this. I stamp and I put on my embossing powder, and that gives me some nice raised images that are fun to touch if you give this card to somebody else and they like to just touch it and see what you did there. And you get gloss, you get a great high clean black, and it's got that nice texture on it that I love to have. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. All right, so let's put this aside, and I'm sure you know how to emboss, but I'm going to do it anyway. So let's ink this up really well. These are really dense rubber stamps, so sometimes you have to stamp it really well with your ink first, and then you have to put a lot of pressure on it. And if you take something that has some give to it, a mouse pad or a stack of paper or something, that will help a lot, or a stamp pad, and then just apply a lot of pressure on here. There, great image. Stampscapes, excellent quality stamps. This is super fine detail embossing clear powder from Ranger. Doesn't have to be, it could just be regular. Honestly, just whatever you have, really. Let your heat tool heat up a little bit, and then don't wiggle like this. Be very systematic and deliberate about the way you emboss. Watch how it changes, move on when it does. And the wiggling doesn't help, it just makes the process a lot longer. And if you're worried about overheating, you can move to the side, but I think you'll find once your heat tool is all heated up, it's going to work great. So watch the change. Awesome. Look at that. Gorgeous. I hope you've been paying attention to Kevin Nakagawa. He is the artist and the owner of Stampscapes. Go check out his website if you haven't, because he's got several tutorials on there that you should take advantage of because they're just out there. They look awesome, and you can learn a lot from him. Okay, I'm going to use two big time tools here. My Q-tips and my Tim Holtz alcohol ink applicator. You can use whatever you have, okay? Just whatever you have that's going to work. The first thing, so I'm going to use tumbled glass. I love this color because it's pretty quiet, and no matter what you do, it's not going to get much darker than it is already. You don't have to take too much smudge off the bottom of this. It's a very quiet color, mostly because the ink is going to spread. So usually we like to get the blotchy bits off on your other paper just to make sure you don't put blotch on your artwork. But in this case, because it's going to spread around really easily, I'm not going to worry about it. The hardest part about this is being patient about how much color is going on here. I don't know what you can see. I wish you could see it more, but because it's a light color to begin with, it takes a little bit of effort to get it to the point where you're going to be able to see it. I wouldn't get too close to the house. Your eye is going to make up for any little bits of white you see around your roof there. I wouldn't risk getting too close because I don't want to have a blue roof. There's a lot of ways of adding color to this. You can use alcohol-based markers on here. I don't know about water-based markers. I don't think I've done that. But go ahead and try it. It's just paper. Give it a shot. See what you get. Might even get something cool that you can use that adds to your toolkit of great ideas on glossy paper. This is about where I'd like to see it. I love this soft blue, so I'm about done. We've got a nice smooth look as though we took a photograph. And because it's embossed, it really doesn't matter how hard I am on this. It's going to slide right over the top. And I don't have to worry, so it makes it really easy. Embossing doesn't take long. It's well worth the effort. Okay, there we go. It's looking sharp. Maybe I'll just polish the black just a little bit. The other side of this. Make sure you're using only about this much here. This is easy to control. This whole area, not easy to control. And you never want to have your Velcro scratch across your paper. So I fold it over the side and make sure I'm working with something I know I can control. Okay, that's done. Let's see what else we got here. I'm going to take old paper and I'm just working off my ink pads like this. I stack them up upside down. And again, it's not about the brand. It really isn't. I just sell these in the store and I try to keep the colors in because I needed to dedicate myself to a set of colors I knew I could keep here. So, all right. So now I'm just going to check that. That's much. Also got a bunch of glitter on there. I don't know if you can see that too. All right. Let's go like this. Okay. So here we are. I'm going to remind you that you want to keep some white on your roof. Don't forget that white is one of your colors. It's great to have contrast, and the only way to get it is to remember that you need to show a big difference between the light and the dark. So I'm going to put old paper right here, and I'm going to be careful to show a little bit of white on my roof. All right. I'm going to use walnut stain. I have a terrible love of walnut stain. It's sick. Use it on too many things, I'm sure. I'm getting quite boring. Alright, so I'm just keeping it here at the base. And I'm going to try to leave old paper up here by itself on the top, again, to get contrast. And you can see I've got ink right here. I don't worry about it. Interestingly enough, usually I'm very particular about where all my ink is, but this is a Q-tip, so the chances of having accuracy are pretty low. I'm going to leave those two colors out, and I'm going to get my frayed burlap again. And I'm going to tack the rest of this. This should be going really fast, and you should be having a good time. I'm going to stay away from the windows. I'm not sure if I would honestly put yellow in there. I don't think I would. I think this is shaded and nobody's in there. And you came across this cabin in the woods, and now you're going to go check it out. Okay, so this is frayed burlap right now. So there's some overhang here from the roof. So I'm thinking most of the light is going to be right here. All right, so that looks awesome, mostly because of the stamp, because he's a genius. That's Kevin Nakagawa. All right. All right, now I'm going to put color right under here, because I figured the overhang is going to affect how much light is showing. I'm going to make this a little darker for the same reason. I'm going to come along the bottom here. Okay, so I've got ink showing up in the corners here. I'm not going to worry about that. I really wouldn't. I don't think people look at their cards that much. I mean, obviously I try for accuracy, and I want it to look great. And if it looks really bad, I'll do it again. Especially if I'm doing cards for a class where I want to sell a class, so I'm thinking they'll probably want it to look good too, because that's the class they're buying. But when I'm not working with something that's very accurate, I don't trouble myself as to how much inaccuracy I'm going to get. Okay, so I love this. I don't love that I lost some of my old paper color there. I'm going to put it back. And the way I'm going to put it back is by going into my white just a bit. There, still got a little bit of white, but I also have some old paper back. Okay, there we go. Make this a little darker. It's hanging out in the trees. There we go. Hey, if you get bored, just skip ahead, because I know I take way too much time on just about everything. So now would be a good time to hit your fast forward button. So eventually, I'm going to put this in front of this card. So if you take this and just look around, you can see, hey, do I have enough blue? And I definitely need green. And it kind of gives you a limited amount of space. You kind of want to spread out a little bit that way, a little bit that way, and of course we got to add our green still. All right, but this is very useful. So let's take a look at, this is going to be right here. Let's take a look about what that measurement is. I'm doing a standard A2 size card, which is 5.5 by 4.25. And this piece of paper right here is 4 3/4 by 3.5. And all I did was I used an oval from a Spellbinder's Nestabilities. Okay, and I just picked one of those, probably that one right there. And then I put it in the middle, up pretty high, and left room down here because I'm actually going to stamp from another stamp on the bottom, and I wanted room to play. So that oval's pretty high right there. Okay, and it's weird because if I take this away, it looks like I have a lot of room there, but it's really, when you look at this, it seems like it's too small. So it's a nifty optical illusion right there. So I know for sure I need a fair amount of green down here, and it might be wise, although I think I've got enough give to make sure you got enough blue going that way. But Just going to hit the Mowed Lawn right now. Mowed Lawn is a really bright color, and I'm going to tone it down because it's just a little too bright for me for this. All right, so you can use a Q-tip on this too. I'm not a fan of using a sponge dauber on glossy paper just because it grabs, but you could use that for sure. And even when I do blotch, let's see if I can get it to blotch. There's my little blotch. Because this is glossy paper, I can scoot the ink around. And I'm just going to come down farther than I need to come because I know it's going to be hidden. This is pretty bright, but if you think that putting less color on here will fix the problem, I think you won't have a really nice saturated color here. So I'm going to encourage you to, even though this hurts the eye with how bright it is, I would make sure that my color is saturated right into here. Good, strong color. I might change that, but at least I have nice strong color instead of something too light. Now I'm going to get a favorite color, pumice stone. I'm going to take a Q-tip and I'm going to tone this down. So I'm going to tone down half so you can see what it does. This should show up really well. I'll just do it right here. I hope you can see that little line right there. And what I'm doing is I'm just graying down the color. That way I don't have this intense, almost fluorescent green. It's an awesome color, but just not what I want for a forest that has some trees in it. So that's toned down pretty good right now. And if you need it toned down some more, your frayed burlap or old paper or even walnut stain will do the same thing. You just have to be careful about how much color you're laying down. Maybe I'll darken this just a bit more where the grass is right here. And you can add Copic to this or another color ink pad just to get some variation in there. All right. Easy, right? It's a good way to manipulate your colors on a piece of paper. All right, so let's take a look again at our oval. So we've got lots of wiggle room there. Might be wise to get a little bit more blue there. And you can see these little blotches here. I'm feeling that, and it feels like clear embossing powder. But the good news is it's not black. Probably going to do something like that, so I'm not going to worry about this or anything else. I'm thinking this will be what I use for my image. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss on this. All right. Let's take our black ink again, and we'll ink this up really well. I think my camera shakes when I do that. All right. I'm going to stamp. It looks like it's going to fit. It's not going to fit. I'm going to stamp off to the right, come down about halfway, right there. The heel of my hand into it because that's what it's going to take. Great. I've got a nice portion of river there, which is awesome. Now I'm going to ink up the whole thing again because I'm never good at figuring out which side is going to connect. So to be on the safe side, I'll just do the whole thing. Don't remotely have a 3D or even a 2D brain. Okay. There's my wood block. Let's move this up a little. There's my wood block match. Now I'm going to move overlap so they blend together. All right, love that. Look at that. That was a complete accident right there, but I'm going to take advantage of it. It's going to be great. All right. Oh, look, I got some ink right there. While it's wet, I'm going to take my wet wipe, take that off. And I'm not going to rub too much because you can still pill up glossy paper if you're not careful, but I am going to let the alcohol work away on that little piece of black right there. And while I'm inking up, I'm also going to stamp this, and I'll emboss both of these. All right, here are the two images that I needed to have embossed. I wanted to show you why I suddenly pulled that out. Here it is right here. And what I did was I used this image right here, just so that I could intrude on this oval, make it a little bit more interesting. These have both been foam mounted, so I have some 3D-ness here. And this one was, this piece right here is actually, let's see, this piece right here is actually this one right here. So this part right here is here, and then trimmed to line up with the edge of my card. And this left piece right here, because it's tilted to the left, I did a creative cut around it, and I put it right here and tilted it upright. Right, so that's what that was about. More later. Right, let's move this and work on this. So again, I'm going to add tumbled glass to this. It's going to take a while to get the depth that I want. Let me show you something else. If you don't want to take as long, you can flip your tumbled glass over and just add it directly and then smooth it out like so. Why don't I do that? I'll do that on this. I probably don't end up doing this a lot just because I feel out of control when I do it. But you can see from all the streaks there that this is only going to penetrate so far. It's glossy paper and it just won't saturate overly much, especially with a light color. Let's do it again. Get some more color on there. Rub it in, rub it in. You'll notice I'm trying to stay away from the trees. Let that sit on there and then work it in. I'm going to get too close to those trees. Alright, so there's blue done fast. I just clean off this right here. There we go. Alright, on this one, I went around the edges with frayed burlap. You can do that if you want, but I actually regret doing that. I don't think it looks that sharp. So if you wanted a little bit more ink around here with the blue, that might make sense. But here, I'm not so sure I like it. You decide. And I used frayed burlap for that. So right here is a river that's running in front of our beautiful cabin. So what I'm going to use is a different color. I don't want it to be the sky color, so I'm going to use Stormy Sky. And I'm going to use a Q-tip. Just because it looks like a small space and I want to feel like I have control. The neat thing about using glossy paper with this is by the time you get this river the way you want it and the color that you want, it will be glossy and shiny and really show up well, simply by virtue of being on glossy paper. So let's just rub that in. I might saturate it a bit more with color just so it sticks out. And I do like to take my time, not a fast stamper. And I do like to fiddle and fussy cut and do a lot of details. So you can just, you know, get a coffee or fast forward. All right, that's the way I like it. Awesome. So now I'm going to get my frayed burlap out. I'm just going to run along this little sandy area, right along the edge. I'm going to stay away from my water, but I'm not going to worry about how much brown I get on the grass. I think I was just using frayed burlap with stormy weather there. Stormy sky, stormy sky. It's not stormy weather, it's stormy sky. There it is, stormy sky. I think there's another color with weather in it, and I mix both of them up all the time. All right, so I'm erring on the side of the bushes and trying to stay away from my beautiful reflective river, because I know I can cover this up with a much darker green. This is where you might want to, you know, I've used those pointy Q-tips, but they're so hard that it actually scritches along the paper, which reminds me of nails on a chalkboard. So that drives me crazy. So I don't use them. Plus, I feel like they scratch my glossy paper. All right, there we go. All right, and I think I will just fix up with my stormy sky right here. Make sure it's plenty blue. All right. Love that. Right now we'll do all this grassy venue right here. Feel free to use whatever greens you have. I'm going to do kind of a quick once over with this. Don't have to worry too much about anything. Again, stay far away from the sky with this. Your eye will make up for the difference. If you have a little bit too much white showing right here, don't worry about it. I'll get as close as I can without worrying about hitting my blue river or my sandy beach overly much, or my sky. Going to completely saturate it. Don't be afraid of your green. Make sure it's nice and strong. You can dull it down, you can brown it down, you can gray it out, but if you don't have good strong color, you don't have contrast. And then it's not as fun or exciting. There we go. All right. So let's use some pumice stone. I have no idea what colors my Q-tips are, so I'm just gonna pull out another one. I think what I'll do actually is start with frayed burlap first. Go around here on the base. Go around here where he already has a lot of black ink showing to indicate darkness, where he wants shading. That's the other thing about his stamps, is that he's done so much shading already with his style that you really don't even have to think about where you're going to put yours. Just do what he did and you're pretty much set. Alright, so that was frayed burlap, and I think what I'm going to do is, just to get more contrast, I'm going to use walnut stain. So think about if you hadn't have used that much green, you wouldn't be able to have this great contrast between the walnut stain and your green. Of course, nothing's stopping you from using a color like maybe forest moss. That would be an awesome choice to get a different color green on here. I'm going to take a risk and just turn this sideways and run some dark color along here to pop out the oval a little bit. I don't know if I did that on my original. I don't think I did, and if I did, it's not very dark. So I'm going to take a risk and do this just here. But this time I'm going to avoid coloring the top part of my oval in any way. I don't think I like what it did the first time. There we go. Let's take a look at this and our original coloring job. All right. Great, so you can move that around a bit until you have what you like. I don't think I like the squareness of this, so I think I'll avoid it somewhere. Come down this way a little maybe. Like that. Well, like that. But look, there's a little bit too white there. I'm going to add a little bit of blue. And we've got some squareness here too. I'm not sure I like that either. Let's try this. Let's go way up like this. Aha. Like so, I think. Something like that. I think I like that best. So that's why we want to stamp this on a bigger piece of paper. This is just glossy paper quartered. And this, is, of course, is 4 3/4 by 3.5. So it's quite a bit smaller. There we go. I think I like that. I don't think I like that hard line right there, and I don't feel like getting out another Stampscapes, which we could, to define more grass on the bottom of that. So let's do this instead. Okay, so right now I'm going to foam mount this item to this. Here's my finished piece. Here's my other finished piece. So let's try to get back to where we were, which is somewhere like so. And it's sticking, so that's definitely where it's going to be. Okay, this is ready. Now I'm going to take some scissors, just cut underneath this. Because my straight edge is where my oval is. So I'm going to cut this so nobody can see the back part. Here's this extra little piece that I made sure to emboss when I was embossing my other part. So I'm going to color this in the same colors that I colored this, and then I'm going to do some cuts here so that I can intrude a little bit on the edges of my oval. I've cut out my little extra piece. I'm going to ink up with walnut stain, and you know when you cut you leave little bits of white around the edges? So I'm going to tone that down, plus provide what little curvature I can to the edge of this so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. I want it to blend in, and yet I want it to pop up so I have some interest on my card and some touchable texture. This one I'm going to cut right out, so I'll do that and I'll do some placement. I put my little tree there, braced it, moved it around and tilted it until I liked it, and that was cut right out of this side of the stamp. And now I'm going to put this one on. I've edged it with walnut stain just to tone it down and make sure that cutting edges weren't used, and I'm going to make sure those trees show behind it And then I'm going to cover up that kind of straight line that's going on with those trees right there. Alright, I like that quite a bit. This is a little too brown. I think I'll touch it up later with some green. See this edge right here? Let's see, okay. I think I'm okay with that, I think. Alright, there we go. I'll have to double brace it behind there, and now I'm going to trim it out with my scissors right here. Make sure it lines up against the edge. Also, don't really like how brown that is. I feel like it's standing out, so I'm going to add more green to that. Just make sure it blends in more than it's blending now. All right, very good. So I'm looking at these two. I just put this together. I black matted it so it's nice and framed out. Everything's been foam mounted and put together. And I'm just looking at the differences in outlining with a bit of a vintage look right here and not outlining. So I'm not sure which I like better, actually. So you decide and see what you might like to do. Right now, I'm going to deal with the inside. I put another black mat in there. And I have my card, and I think what I'll do is I'll just take this and add it right here in the corner, just so that the whole card has been finished off and it's ready for you to do something with. Let me just stamp it right here. Nothing really excessive, just very elegant. I've always thought that Stampscapes are a very elegant type of stamp, and if I put it right here, it looks sharp, it looks finished. And that's what the outside looks like. So I will do this one next. I won't take as much time because it's really just the same thing, but it would be nice to just kind of help you get some ideas about how else you can use the stamps you already have. I've stamped the image that's inside of here. It won't take too long with this one because, as you know, it's really not that much different, but this is a little trickier maybe. So instead of putting my oval right in the center like I did last time, I put it off to the side so that I could accommodate the size of this lighthouse. And also stamping this part, you can see there's not a lot of stamping, but it's kind of weird to stamp on this. So I wanted to show you that first so that you wouldn't feel like you didn't know what was going on. So let's ink this up really well. This stamp has a lot of ink on it, so take your time, ink it up very well, and be sure that you have everything that you need on there. Sometimes it's hard to look at a bigger image and feel comfortable with cutting some of it off. I know that feels strange. So let's just do that part first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the lighthouse be here and have it cut off, because this part right here is actually foam mounted on it. So this is an extra piece, like so. So I'm going to start from the bottom so you can see where this is pointing. I'm going to move up the side right here, and I can't look over top of it. I'm going to look at my screen and see if I can see it that way. I don't want to stamp the top off, but I do want to stamp the inside of this off somewhat. Hopefully I did okay. Let's see what happens. All right, so this is strange, look. All right, but our second piece is what's going to go and intrude on the inside of that oval. While this is wet like this, I'm going to take this wave stamp that matches, ink that up really well, and because Kevin is so good at making all of his stamps show up really well against each other and work really well together, you'll have no problem making this wave part of these rocks. So I'm going to, keeping in mind where this oval is right here, I want to make sure my waves come up, like I don't lose them down here somewhere and then just have a bunch of white. I'm going to push this over and make sure that the waves come up against the side of the lighthouse. All right, easy. Just looks like it belongs, doesn't it? I'm going to ink up the whole thing just so I don't screw up. Come alongside here. Make sure it butts up again. Mostly lines up with the other one. I wouldn't worry that the top of the waves go over the top of the oval. You can see I'm not going to be able to get all of it on here, and that won't matter. There we go. Looking good. And I'll ink up and stamp one more time and bring this one over the side of this one. Make sure this jagged edge goes into the waves right there. And normally I'd be looking straight down, but I can't because of the camera, so let's just take a chance and hopefully this will work. There we go. Love that. That was easy. I'm going to emboss that, and I'm also going to emboss an extra one of these. For coloring this card, you can see we used Mowed Lawn again. And then instead of Stormy Sky, I used Salty Ocean. I used old paper for some of the roof, frayed burlap for some of the roof, and probably got in there with my walnut sting. Then I toned everything down because I used Fired Brick, which is a really hot color. It's very hot red. But you can see this is weathered and worn and browned out, and so is this. I wanted these two things to match so we didn't have too many colors on here. So that was Fired Brick in there with a Q-tip and toned down with either frayed burlap or walnut sting. Salty Ocean in here, a little bit of pumice stone here on the rock. Salty Ocean here, and I left it pretty strong color so that we had lots of foreground strong color and toned down a little bit more here. Don't be afraid to leave a little bit of white on the top of these rocks, and if you want to come in here and do a little bit of white with a pen just to highlight some of these waves, that would be a great idea. This is the popped up version of the lighthouse. Here it is, looking really strange. Before we put that on there, and then when you emboss this, you can see a natural place to cut it out, and that's what I did. I cut it out right there where that white line seems to be. Cut this all out, then put it here. I did put a little bit of yellow in the windows and a little bit of yellow here. I'm not a big fan of putting lines of yellow out while the lighthouse is working, plus this is daytime, so I figure you wouldn't be able to see that anyway. And then tumbled glass, as you can see right here. On the inside, again, I just took a piece of the lighthouse and stuck it in the corner there, and it's all done. So hopefully you have a bit of fun with your Stampscapes and can come up with any number of things to put here in this type of card. Make sure you pick paper that really, this cardstock, that really pulls out your colors and makes them pop off the page. They don't have to be bright so much as just right. So hold a few colors into your finished artwork first before you pick out what that is, and then make sure you frame it with some black, because there's no getting away from the fact that we have a lot of black on this card. So you might as well frame it out and then highlight it with some other kind of color. I hope that was fun. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you're using your Stampscapes. And if you want to see Kevin's YouTube channel, that would be Stampscapes YouTube, and I think he's got like 155 videos right now, or 53 or something like that. And his style is like radically different and radically really fabulous. So go enjoy that and go see what he's doing with all of his Stampscapes. Talk to you soon, and hope I can bring another video out to you quickly. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.